Okay, our next step here, now that we know how to instrument tie, is to take that same principle and to be able to do it without the needle driver instrument. Now, we may at this point ask ourselves, why do we have to do it without the needle driver? You may feel pretty comfortable now handling your needle driver, and you'll notice that actually the instrument tying with the needle driver uses up less suture and can sometimes be faster because you had the needle driver in your hand anyway. Why would you ever put it down in order to use your hands? The answer to this is that how you want to tie a suture can be context dependent, because it may actually not be practical to use an instrument tie, and you may actually need your hands to kind of stabilize things in order to throw knots as you're tying something into place. A really good example of this is if you're putting a drain in and you're suturing it to the surface of the skin. To instrument tie that into place really isn't very practical, because using your hands actually keeps the drain in place as you're throwing the knots. So the moral of the story is, to be a complete medical student and to be a complete surgeon, you want to be very proficient in both instrument tying and hand tying, because there's a time and place for both. Now, just to start, we're going to do two-handed knots. And I'm going to show you both. There's two orientations of throwing the knot, and we have to do them individually first just so we can learn them and we don't get overwhelmed, but in the end we'll combine them together. And this is so we can throw square knots just like we did with our instrument tie. So just like when we were instrument tying and we're pulling in opposite directions, because we don't have an instrument when we have our hand, we just have to change the positioning, and then we can throw square knots with our hands without issue. So to start, for a two-handed suturing knot, what I want you to keep in mind is that this may seem to get a little complicated, but all you have to do is remember that you're literally just tying a knot, and you're tying it around your finger. So we're going to go through the steps and make it sure that it's very, very obvious, so if you ever forget something, you can kind of reason your way through it. For the two-handed knot, you can use either hand. Arguably, you should get good at doing it both ways. I like to use my offhand, and again, orientation is very, very important. What you do is, now you're using your thumb. So for this first knot, we're going to be basically tying the knot around our thumb. So to start, this is how we hold the suture. And we can see that it's coming over the thumb and through the palm of the hand off to the side over here. And again, if you don't get this orientation, everything's going to be very, very difficult. But just make sure that you are oriented properly, and then everything else will fall into place. So we have our suture here coming over our thumb. Now the next step is to literally encircle our thumb with suture. So all we did is, because the suture is coming like this, we have to bring the other one around the thumb here and literally make a loop. The next step is to pinch our fingers together and then pull our index finger through the loop that we created around our thumb. And we'll do that just one more time. Here we have our initial setup, our thumb right here, and the suture's coming over it in this orientation. Make sure to keep that in mind. And then we bring the other suture around like so, creating this loop here, and then we pinch, bring our index finger through here, and then all we do is we place the suture on this side in between our index finger and thumb, and then we pull it through the other side. And then as we actually pull the knot, you can kind of twist your orientation so it it goes as flat as possible. It's a little hard to show with something that's so small here, but if you do this with a shoelace, you would see that if you twist in this orientation, the knot will be a little bit more flat. And then also, you can place your finger down just to make sure that it's nice and tight. So we'll do that one more time. Over our thumb like this, come around from the other side, pinch, go through, place the suture on your index finger, and then pull it back to the other side. And as you pull, rotate your hands as such to make sure that the knot falls into place. So this is the first example of our two-handed knot here.